my presentation is some kind of review, let's say, of what we call an anion exchange membrane fuel cells. And because we have just are limited in time, so I will talk mainly on the main challenges that we have today in this technology. So first of all, because we are here a big, broad audience, so for those who are not yet familiar with this technology, the slides, just for your information in background, are not centered, so we are missing a lot. What does it mean? Okay, meanwhile, I will continue hoping that that will be fixed. Very similar to what we have in a PEM fuel cell, that we have a solid electrolyte. So we, instead of having a solid polymer electrolyte conducting protons, we have a solid electrolyte polymer conducting hydroxyls. So we have all the advantage of the PEM fuel cell without no liquid electrolyte. However, we have also the advantage of the high pH, the alkaline medium. Therefore, we have the potential to use very low-cost and PGM-free catalyst. Instead of platinum, as I mentioned, we will be able, in principle, to use iron, nickel, cobalt, copper, and very low expensive catalyst. But also, we can save very significant money cost in the membranes, because an ion exchange membrane can be easily produced by hydrocarbons, for instance, polyethylene or polystyrene, which are very, very low cost as compared to the naphthalene, which is fluorinated. So once again, I believe we have problem with focus, or maybe you can see, I hope. So the total potential cost reduction is actually significantly. Also some cost reduction in the bipolar plates due to the fact that we do not need expensive coatings as well. So what we do at the Technion, we have the largest worldwide research group devoting all the resources for this technology. So we are developing, synthesizing, and characterizing membranes and catalysts, testing all the way through modeling from molecular dynamics, fundamental modeling, and modeling all the fuel cells, all the way to electrode and cells, that together with partners in around 20 different countries worldwide, we are very focused to the automotive market. So we are focusing on the main challenges of this technology, because we are a very big group that still need to focus on what we need in order to make progress. So part of those challenges are performance, catalysts for the anode, carbonation issues, and stability. So I will show just a couple of slides of each of those issues. So we start with Electro Catalysts very fast, because we have some opportunities yesterday to hear excellent talks about the Electro Catalysts. So I will say, as was mentioned yesterday, the platinum, of course, is a very low activity in alkaline. So we started working with palladium, which is even lower activity, 5 to 10 times lower activity than the platinum. So it's very low activity. You can see here and here palladium carbon in the real anion exchange membrane fuel cell, those operated with air and not with oxygen. So we have in the past 2 years to succeed to significantly increase the activity of the palladium by decorating small nanodots of palladium onto oxophilic materials like nickel. That was a joint work with Professor David Zaytoun that you have the opportunity to hear him yesterday, and also decorating with a very low cost oxophilic materials like ceria. So you can see here when we have nanoparticles of palladium and we have nanoparticles of palladium deposited on ceria, significant increase in activity. So those actually are the state of the art in completely platinum-free anion exchange membrane fuel cell. So we have no platinum, no liquid electrolyte, and the performance is getting higher and higher. In the past year, we have recently published also a work that we do not just succeed to increase the activity of the palladium by depositing palladium seria, but also we surprisingly, I would say, we significantly increase the stability. So we can here see in why we are dissolution profiles of the palladium on carbon. That of course, the palladium, when we switch from 0 to 1 voltage cycling in alkaline, it's very well known that we dissolve the palladium. And when we add the seria to palladium, surprisingly, we have no dissolution at all, no signs of dissolution. We repeat this several times. We don't understand why, but we are happily surprised of this finding as well. Now, in the past months, we also started some theoretical study, DFT, to try to understand how we can optimize this bifunctional catalyst. So this work has been done in collaboration, and the DFT work is done by Professor Ilya Greenberg, that you heard him yesterday from Bar-Ilan University, and his postdoc, Dr. Shetan. So they, in the initial work, they already conclude that having a seria to the palladium seria deactivates the hydrogen absorption, and therefore promoting the oxidation of the hydrogen. We also believe, or at least myself believe, that it can be also some effect of the oxophilic effect, that we create sites to absorb OH species, like was a few years ago published by Voya's group working on platinum, ruthenium, and other oxophilic materials like iridium. So once again, the final goal, as I mentioned, for an anion exchange membrane fuel cell is to go all the way to platinum-free, free catalyst. And for that reason, we at the Technion are working on completely PGM-free nickel-based catalyst. This work is being leading by Dr. Elena Davidova, who is here. And he's doing a great job by alloying and decorating nickel with other simple metals. That was similar to the work that we heard from the Plamenat and as of yesterday with nickel copper or nickel molybdenum. So we are also working with those metals and also with nickel iron and other similar very low cost metals. So that was in terms of electrocatalysts. Another issue is the carbonation, as I mentioned. We're liquid electrolyte free, so we do not have any precipitation. However, the carbonation, due to the CO2, when you work with air, we have carbonation issues, meaning we have bicarbonate and carbonate anions, which are much bigger ions than the OH minus, and therefore the conductivity reduces. So we have been recently published last month a first simulation and numerical simulation that we show that there is no bicarbonate anion whatsoever all through the membrane, which is in completely contrast to some literature that claiming that the bicarbonate is in there when we operate the membrane. And when operating the membrane at different current densities, we can see that what we see besides the OH minus is carbonate. And we summary this finding by making a simulation, continuous simulation, all around the current densities that we have interest to work, low current density and high current densities. And we finalize and conclude that if we succeed to work on the anion exchange membrane fuel cell in current densities of 1 ampere square centimeter and above, so more than 80% of the anions inside the membrane will be OH minus. So the efficiency of these membranes and the conductivity of this membrane will be the highest. and then we will not have any issue working with ambient air. So that's a good conclusion. However, that's providing that in this technology we can go over the 1 amp per square centimeter. And that is the reason that we made a thorough literature review and published last month this a nice paper that review all the progress and all the history and the state of the art of this technology until today. And you can see here this tremendous, significantly improvement in the last decades. Actually, we started developing this technology here in 2007, more or less. So at that time, we had just, I would say, 2 or 3 more people that we could talk about this technology by then. And you can see that even in the last 2 or 3 years, we have a tremendous increase in performance. You can see that here we pass already the barrier of 1 watt per square centimeter. Actually, in the community, we have another 2 better results already, very close to a power density, peak power density of 2 watt per square centimeter. You can compare that with a PEM fuel cell. You can see here the limiting currents are really high. In this plot, you can see all the data published until today of an ion exchange membrane fuel cells, hydrogen fueled. What is every single plot represents 1 publication. So we have more than 100 points. And you can see every 4 years, we have increasing the limiting current density and the power density, and we are now moving this front further. So this technology already proves that the conductivity of the membranes and the performance, initial performance, of course, is very good, very reasonable, and are ready actually for the market. However, those are initial performance. So if we now do the same work with all the literature, what was published until today, those are all the performance stability studies that were reported until today from the very beginning, 1 decade ago. So what you immediately can see, this is a normalized to voltage. So starting 100% of the voltage, you can see the decay. You can immediately see that no one yet published or reported a stability working on whatever the mode that we can work, but trying to pass the 1,000 limit, 1,000 hours. So actually, most of the reports are working with very low current densities. You can see 100 milliamp, and the limiting time is below 400 or 300 hours. So this stability, this limitation in stability is the main #1 challenge in this technology today. So we are in all the community trying to focus as much as we can to solve this limitation. So worldwide, people were working with different cations, that those are the main functional groups in the anion exchange membranes. So we all know by this point that the main reason for that degradation is the chemical degradation of those cations. So some of those cations are really good, some others are fortunately very, very low stability. This family of cations, that trimethyl, for instance, trimethylbenzyl quaternary ammonium is, let's say, our standard today, which is relatively very stable. So last time we got together in the community of the anion exchange membrane fuel cell people, that was on April the last year. That was a very intensive workshop organized by NREL Los Alamos, and of course under the help and the funding of the DOE. And I took this slide from Dimitrios from that workshop, showing for the first time 4 different polymers that were proven to be super stable with low degradation, almost 0% of degradation, between 0 and 8% of degradation for thousands of hours. So another nice publication 2 years ago, that was my colleague Klaus Dieter Kreuer, claiming that if this is the standard, he found a new quaternary ammonium, a new functional group that this is 25 times much more stable if I make the maths for you. So that means that we can calculate an 8,000 hours of stability using this type of quaternary ammonium for the anion exchange membrane fuel cell. So 8,000 hours sounds good. So it's a nice number for the automotive market, for the DOE target. However, as was I explained it in this workshop last year, we are not measuring the stability of those polymers in the right way. We are wrong when we use alkaline aqueous solutions in order to measure this stability. At that point, we didn't have any proof to show that. So now we have recently published a numerical model, which is the first numerical model in an ion exchange membrane fuel cell, that we can reach very high current densities. And you can see here that working on 1 or 2 amperes per centimeter, which is our target for automotive application, we have a very low hydration number, meaning we do not have enough water. So we cannot use water to measure the stability. In another paper recently published, we have proven that this very good and stable compound, when we reduce the number of water molecules, we destroy very fast in a very few hundred of hours, which correlates very well with all the fuel cell data reported in the literature. So we explain why when low current, actually we have a good hydration. In the high current, we have a bad hydration mainly in the cathode, and that new explanation supported by the numerical model, so we can finally understand why those molecules are not stable. So we are working now on 3 different approaches at the Technion. One is to try to solvate and find the minimum amount of water, so then even very unstable molecules can be completely stable. We have a success, and we have published a recent paper a couple of weeks ago on that. That was the first approach. The second approach, I cannot share all the details, but the molecules, new novel quaternary ammonium of this kind of family, we have proved at a very low hydration level that is stable for thousands of hours. We need to repeat that, and we are repeating that, and very soon we'll be able to show the molecules. And we, in parallel, have another backup plan that we are now not changing the chemistry, but we will very soon, hopefully next year, be able to show how we take an anion exchange membrane which is not stable, and we can somehow protect in chemical way using some kind of tricks that we are working on. So those will be published next year. But we have several approaches, and now that we understand, and everyone understands why those polymers are not stable, we can finally develop very stable polymer for this technology. So in summary, we have shown, all the community have shown excellent performance that actually are competing very well with PEM fuel cell initial performance. We have shown in a numerical model that if we work on more higher current density from 1 ampere square centimeter, so we will have no reason why not. We cannot work with air, so no carbonation issues will be at that high performance anion exchange membrane fuel cell. However, as I mentioned, we still need to focus on these 2 remaining challenges. One is to develop a completely non-PGM, as other groups are working on that successfully for the anode, and of course to develop the final functional group that will be stable in very low hydration numbers, meaning will allow us to work on densities, current densities more than 1 ampere square centimeter. So whenever, very soon, all the community, we will have progress in these 2 fronts, so we will be very ready to make a push and to make this technology a real alternative to PEM fuel cell. So I would like to thank, I will not, Lior is pushing, so we have a lot of collaborators. Actually, this is a partial list for those who didn't visit the north of Israel. This is very near to the Technion, our city in the very famous Carmel Mountain. And I would like to thank all the founding sources. I think I forgot one more, but the main are here. And this is a part of the group that we started 2 years ago and is getting bigger and bigger. There are 5 new integrants that are not updated, these pictures, so they will be very soon. And thank you to all of them because they actually did all the job. So thank you very much for your attention.